Hey everyone. Welcome back to Between the Joneses.
Between the Joneses. Hey, what's happening? We're back with part
See,
2.
part two.
Part 2, we've named the problem. We're talking about comparison culture. Last episode, we were talking about Instagram and versus reality and the illusion of winning all the time, and how we're somehow behind because of it. So today, we're going to be talking about.
Or we feel less than, like people feel not enough.
Right, we're using it as a measure, to value our self-worth. So today we're hoping that we can talk about what can we do differently, and this isn't, what can we do to make ourselves perfect, or how can I make this change that's gonna happen overnight, but it's more so about being mindful of your intentionality, and trying to hopefully just interrupt, that feedback loop. So, the first step that we would like to talk about is how we can interrupt the comparison loop. How do we do that?
I mean, you should probably start because a lot of this is with kids and your
Mhm.
kiddo has technology. So, how do you disrupt that loop?
For me, think I just try to connect with them in the present. I think being present in the moment is really important. And then also just, I don't want to say calling them out, but making them self aware that it's happening in real time. Hey, this is what you're doing. This is how it's coming out of you as far as like responses or lack of gratefulness. It's just to make them self-aware that it's happening in real time.
Has she as a teenager, and again, it's there's so many dynamics to a developing child. Is she at her age able to understand that?
Think so. I think she pretends like she does. It's also become a part of how we wind down and relax as well. So like if she's had a long day, she'll come home and I'll catch her scrolling and I'll be like, "Hey, why don't you like pick up a book or something?" And she'll just be like, "Leave me alone."
That's funny.
Yeah, I
So,
think
like,
it's but
you've had to
acknowledging it.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Well, you've had to interrupt the loop when that happens. At some point, you're like, "Okay, give me your phone," or, like, you're putting your phone away or setting a time limit.
yeah, and we do have limits. So we have, she's only allowed 15 minutes on TikTok a day. I think we have like an hour for Netflix or something like that. But we do have very strict limits that as parents you do have control of. You can put those limits on their devices. She doesn't have access to YouTube, things like that. So there are things that we are doing to try to mitigate how much time they're spending on, but this is just for my teen. Like she doesn't have a phone. She's not allowed access. She's too young, but
River is how old?
she's 15.
So she's 15, Though is 10. And I have a 10 and an 8-year-old, and we do not plan on having or giving them a device until they're for me, I would love to say 18. Speaking of this, and because it's been in the news, kind of like how to interrupt the loop, there are
Right.
countries that are trying to ban social media ages 16 and under.
I love that.
And when I first saw that, I was like, "You think?"
I know. Well, because even us as adults, we have a hard time self-regulating.
Right.
So for us to
And adults
presume
are
kids.
addicted to their phones.
Yeah, and so they to presume children are gonna have the same level of self-control is just, to me, reveals your lack of understanding of child development and child psychology and how their brains actually work through each developmental stage of childhood.
Yeah, that's like putting the cookie jar right next to the child.
Yeah,
Only have one.
I know.
Okay. Yeah, so I was gonna
Um,
read this really quick about, and this is from the BBC, which this is not my go-to outlet. It just happened to come up, everyone. So it says here, and this was February 3rd. Spain has become the latest European country to make plans to ban social media for children under the age of 16. It goes on to say it still needs parliament approval, making company executives responsible for illegal or harmful content on their platforms. In the same sentence, we know Mark Zuckerberg is in court right now regarding his content that has harmed children.
Mhm.
Australia became the world's first country to bring in a ban last year, with others watching and judging its success. So, right now, France, Denmark, and Austria have also announced that they're considering their own national age limits.
Mhm.
And I think that's a step in a really healthy direction for our children.
Absolutely.
Because before we got on here, we were talking about kids aren't looking up like the Civil War
No.
for their phone. Like they're on TikTok, they're on Snapchat, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook.
Right.
And we know that it's harming our kids also with cyberbullying, body image, comparing ourselves to others, like last week, lifestyle, feeling they don't have enough because they're comparing themselves to a friend on TikTok.
I mean, even darker things like catfishing or adults disguising themselves as children in like a Roblox chat or something.
Was a big one. Pornography is a big one. I mean, it's just, you have to acknowledge, and I say this to parents, you have to acknowledge that there is a dark side of the web and to
Mhm.
be mindful of that space. And go ahead.
Already the data is already showing how damaging it is to children and their ideas of self-worth, their value. It's leading to anxiety and depression, especially in women and in young female children.
Children
No
have
wonder.
lives because of social media.
Right.
I mean, these are facts. This is not like we're just talking about some fluff. These are really sad situations, really, really sad that, in my opinion, never had to happen.
Right. I agree. So, the first thing, step one is to acknowledge that it's happening in real time, right?
Right.
I might be scrolling and now I'm comparing and now I'm feeling like crap. And so right then and there, it's like, why am I feeling like crap? Because I'm looking at something that someone else has that I don't have. So I think that is leading us into step two is we need to know that we have the power to define and change what success means to me individually or what success means to our family.
So, what does it mean to your family?
For what success means,
Yeah. So, how would you define success?
I would say showing up,
Sometimes it's
showing
just simple as showing up.
showing up for your family. Being kind is a really big one in our house. Even if you're frustrated, like still trying to stay calm to communicate your needs and or, possible wants during whatever season of life you might be in. Trying your hardest, I think too. I think comes along with showing up as well.
You know, this is why I wanted to throw this question out because I think it. I'll just ask it. Have you ever, quote unquote, won something that didn't actually make your life better? And
The
I'm like
Roger Rabbit.
I'm like I'm like, "Yes, all the time."
Yeah,
What was your example?
I said the Roger Rabbit.
That was so funny. Share that story.
Well, we
If
went to
people
see
listen up to this part, I hope you're gonna really love this story because I wanna hear your side, and then I'm gonna tell you my remembrance.
well, we went to see the Who Framed Roger Rabbit with dad, and they were like there was a giveaway of, like, a really big Who Framed like, the Roger Rabbit stuffed animal. It was, like,
It was
almost like a life size,
it was huge.
and we were late, so we were the last ones to put our names in, I
I don't
think,
remember
right?
that, dang it. I only remember go ahead, finish your
Well, that's why I thought that I won because we were the pretty much the last ones there, and then we as soon as we sit down, they're like, "Okay, we're gonna pull the names for the Roger Rabbit," and then they just pulled my name right off the top, like, I don't even think they shuffled it or so I just
That's so funny, and you weren't we it was at a theater, right? I remember sitting in, like, theater chairs.
yeah, it was like an old school theater, not like a new
Yeah,
IMAX
it
or anything
wasn't,
like
no, it was very
yeah.
old school. It couldn't have been like a regular movie theater because it was like, which movie have you ever gone to where they're doing a giveaway of a stuffed animal?
I know. So there, I won something, but it didn't really, like, change my life,
Yeah, yeah. I was
you
so
know?
jealous. I
Maybe
remember
you thought, like, "She's so lucky."
I did, I was like I don't remember if I cried. Man, I wish I remember how old we were. But yeah, when they called your name. I was like, "She just won this huge Roger Rabbit. She's so lucky."
Comparison, man.
That's a good one. I'm actually surprised that you made that you thought of that one after I asked that question.
Yeah, because it was, I don't know, just such a big win in everybody else's eyes, but I was just like, "I just got here." But what about you? What does success look like to you and your family? I have a few more, but I would love to hear from you.
I mean, it's definitely changed over the years, right? Like, I mean, you're talking about someone who was, like, really, really competitive and just wanted to win all the time, to always get
Right.
first. I think just self-love is a big
Yep.
one. That's really important for me, being aligned with yourself and maybe redefining your values and your beliefs when all the noise is away from you. So self-love is a really big one. Um,
Yeah, that's a good one. I like
Having
that.
confidence with yourself, like doing things for you
Mhm.
is a big one for me because I was very insecure when I was a child, when I was a teenager, in my teens, I was very, very insecure. Doing success for me is doing things that I show up for and want, like my purpose and passion for myself. And as far as a family, I might have to think about that more.
Yeah.
It might
Some
depend.
others that came some others that came to mind were, success is having discipline. I have like, for myself, I'm very, very self-disciplined,
That's a good one.
and I find pride in that. I'm proud of myself for that. I show up every day for myself.
I would say that with working out, like being intentional, and it's most days that I try to be active.
Yeah.
And some days it could just be a walk, but the movement aspect is success for me.
Yep. 100%. I think having a strong work ethic too is how I measure my success. Like if I'm not putting in the work but expecting these results, then it's not lining up. So if I'm constantly working hard, I'm not getting the results, and I still feel successful at the end of the day because I'm still putting in the work. Because I know through life experience that the wins will eventually come.
Which brings me to one also that I've been successful trying t what I think of success is trying to be right here in the moment. There's
Yes.
so many times where I'm thinking about something that happened 10 years ago or wanting something that's maybe gonna happen in 5 years, and it takes away from what's happening right in front of me.
Yep, and I think that's the key. You just hit the nail on the head is living life in the present
Yep.
because we get so easily distracted by the future, what's happening in a couple weeks, or we're stuck in the past. What happened to me in the past? I'm still hurt by that. And so I do feel like that, at least for me, that's kind of like the point of life is being able to live truly in the moment, be present.
Right. Right.
And then another one too for me before we get on to step 3 is living for joy, living for moments of joy, finding the joy, removing things that don't bring me joy. So
That's a good one. Those are both
and
really
I've been really successful at that the last couple years of my life, removing things that don't bring me joy, like this spoon that's been in my utensil drawer that I just, every time I see it. So I got rid of that spoon. Yeah, so identifying what success means to you, I think is important. And then one thing, this is the important part, is saying those values out loud, but also focusing on what's going right. And I actually learned this from you through volleyball and coaching because we get so hung up in those failures, like what I'm doing wrong. And it's like, let's just start simple. Like, what am I doing right? What is going right? And that should hopefully redirect you back to your definitions of what success looks like to you.
and that's a really even just like a mantra, something to write down to say to children as well,
Mhm.
because a lot of times kids hang on to like the one thing that they didn't get or do right, or they do hold on to not winning. And that's a great way to kind of reframe. Like, okay, we know that this happened and you're feeling this and these things didn't go your way. Tell me something that did go your way. Tell me something that made you kind of like your head up you had a little bit more, "Yeah, like, I really finished through on my free throw shot."
Yeah.
Those
Or
like
was there a moment you felt joy?
Yeah. Going back to almost like loving the little things that will ultimately lead to really great things.
Right.
And even if even if the great thing isn't winning or successful to other people, here's the big
Right.
thing, like, is it to you?
Right. Well, and that's because I think we're also trained to need and want external validation. So once you get to a point in life where like the only validation should be coming from within.
When did you first notice that you were wanting some external validation?
I think in my performance with like all the sports that we did
Yeah. There
and
was
just
some sort of, "Look at me."
yeah, just constantly being measured up to my sisters uh was
Is this a therapy session?
no, but I do think it definitely kind of shaped me in a lot of ways.
Oh, it did. You were the youngest. Everyone should know you were the youngest. I was the middle of the girls. Kelly's the oldest, and then we have an older brother. And how you are in the sibling order matters.
Yeah, no, I don't like blame you guys or anything like that. I just think that's kind of naturally where it developed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was joking. So
I know, I'm not hurt.
when you saw us being successful, you then kind of wanted others to see your success?
Yeah, I think what I noticed was all the attention you received, and I wanted that attention too. I wanted people to look at me like I was the top dog.
Yeah.
So I was striving for that because I wanted to be recognized as equally as my sisters as being like
I
worthy of
know.
those accolades. Yeah, so identifying what success looks like for you, focusing on what is going right versus what's going wrong. And then I think, as we're talking about children and adults, but moving into step 3 is not only posting the wins. I'm not saying trauma dump on everyone, but we talked about that last episode, how that's almost like cringy when people like totally leave all their dirty laundry out on their Facebook posts. We're not
Right,
talking about that,
explore.
but like really
Yeah.
showing the real side of like today wasn't a win day for me, but I still showed up for me. I still, put in the work.
Or I had just posted something, our team took 2nd, and I made sure that, yes, you see all these smiles, and yes, we earned a medal, and behind the scenes, I mean, I didn't even put that about 30 minutes before we were playing in our match, our game, you know how you can, like, have a warm-up court? Well,
Mhm.
one of a volleyball went onto a basketball court, and that coach, I mean, and I saw just the tail end, but he was, like, scowling at yeah, just like that, screaming, yelling at my little kiddo, and she was just like, first of all, she's 9, and she was just, like, bawling, crying, and I went over to him and I said, "Do you realize you're screaming at a 9-year-old?"
Right. And that's going to lead us into our next topic, which is the normalization of toxic behaviors. But and I think a lot of coaches, at least in that example, that's normal.
I mean, it's we just think of volleyball tournaments. Look at parents when children are line judging or when children keep the score, like the flip.
I know.
If it's like if it's it's 2. If it's too slow, parents are screaming like flip.
Yeah.
Lack of self-awareness. And it is true, like, when you get in that state, it's almost for a lot of people, they've never learned to self-regulate or to control that emotion, and we see it all the time. What happens? They explode. I mean, there's been
Right.
countless times where we are right now at our location where they've had to remove parents because they're so combative.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
we'll talk about the toxic, which is a reason why I left that world for
so step 1 is identifying in real time that the comparison loop is happening. So we need to interrupt the comparison loop. 2, I change what success means to you and your family. So not to everybody else or external outside world validation or expectations, but to you individually. And then stop only posting the wins too, showing like a little bit more equal sides to it. And it's funny because up until just this past year, a lot of club teams in our area only posted when the teams did really well. And it wasn't until and this is just my personal opinion, but until I started posting my team's effort,
Mhm.
maybe so we made it to the bronze bracket, but my girls were still there working hard all day. Like, I'm not going to hide their efforts and all the work that they put in, that the parents put in, just because they didn't get a title to that effort.
Right. That's a really important one.
And so now we're seeing all these other clubs, now they're posting when teams don't do great. And I'm just like, that's really interesting.
Well, you're leading, I would say you're leading a movement of not that you don't care, but there's more to life than a first place medal.
Absolutely.
You can still want both, like, I still want a medal, and
Yeah,
I'm still I'm still very much involved with the effort, the process, the little steps. That's
right.
successful to me as well.
And that's the stuff we don't see. And I loved your post, like what happens in the car ride home, because again, that's a side of someone's story in their voice that we're not seeing or hearing,
Ever.
because we're so hyper fixated on curating our narrative to appear a certain way to the outside world for external validation, just so we can get those small little like moments of approval, right?
Look at me, look at me.
Yeah, look at me. I'm doing it. Validate what I'm doing. Because if I don't have your external validation, then I don't have self worth. And so, again, it comes back to, like you said earlier, like that level of self love, knowing you don't need that.
Right. So when I post something, is it nice for people to respond? Sure, because for me, again, going back to my self-love, I love being relatable to like all the crap, all the things that happen within life. The good, the bad, the happy, the negative, the healthy, the destructive. That's all part of being a human being. And so when I post or when I share, for me, it's I want you to know that I'm relating to you or I hope to connect to you in some way. That doesn't mean I need you to like my post or to respond to my post. If you do great, because maybe we have some sort of connection or you can relate, like, hey, this happened to me the other day, or hey, thanks for sharing that because you're right. When I was in the car ride home with my son the other day, the first thing that I wanted to do when I got into that car was to tell him a couple things. I read your post and it made me self reflect on mom, dad, what am I doing in those
Right.
moments,
Right. So, I guess in that example, holding yourself accountable for what you bring
which takes work.
to that dynamic. And so, yeah, step 3, stop only posting the wins, and then also this kinda leads into step 4 is modeling how to lose, which I think is really important. Modeling how to lose out loud too, right?
When you are not winning, how do you show up?
Yeah, like, losing sucks. That sucked. That whole thing really sucked, but we're gonna be okay.
Big one as far as like a how to that I've implemented is, and this is whether it's a boy, like the boys basketball team or the girls volleyball team, I let them know, like, when you walk out of here, you keep your head up. You can have all these big feelings. We'll continue to grow. We're going to learn from what just happened, but you still are equally loved and you need to leave this gym knowing that it's going to be okay.
Right.
And there's papers and scientific research on, the benefits of keeping your head up.
Mhm. 100%. I didn't l and you just said it, I didn't love that outcome, but I learned something.
Mhm.
This was very hard, but hard things pass. You don't have to
And
live in the moments.
yeah, and there is a sense of doing hard work. Like, y I like to work hard, and again, we don't have to get into, like, the semantics and defining hard, that's different for everyone, but there is a sense of success too when you're putting in the work.
Mhm. Anything and my belief is anything worth doing is gonna be hard.
Mm,
So, yeah, normalizing or not normalize, but modeling how to lose.
that's a good one.
I think it's important because when adults are normalizing struggle, kids stop fearing it, right? And I think that's the key, and we're coming back into that fear base.
That's such an old it is a very old school and uneducated way of thinking. And it really, a lot of it does come down to education because if you do a little bit of work and read a little bit, instilling fear in children is one, it's not healthy, it is destructive, and it could lead to a lot of other misbehaviors further along in their path.
Right. Yeah. So really being mindful of, I don't want these kids to develop anxiety about fear, like fearing failure, feeling, and that comes back to mistakes too, like making mistakes in the game.
Being okay, yeah, like, how do you respond when they miss their shot?
Yeah.
I apologize, everyone that's watching, that I do revert back to basketball and volleyball. Take any sport, take something in
Any
life.
sport. Any sport. Yeah.
Take, I don't know, it could be an art too.
Yeah. Art, music, anything that requires discipline and work and time. Yeah. This past weekend we had a tournament for my little 11U team and it was fine, their very first tournament, but I had a parent come up to me later and she's like, "It's okay if you need to if you need to yell a little bit. Like you can be hard on my kid." And I was like, I hear you, but every single one of my athletes was already on the verge of tears.
Well, and then it goes back to, and this is where it begins, and this is why it's so frustrating for me. Yelling becomes the kid's fearful. And so the kid starts changing. They start changing where it's like Pavlov. So, you know what
Right.
I'm saying? Then it becomes, I need to hear that yell and then I'll show up.
Right.
And that is not the message. That is not what we want to have healthy children. We want
Mhm.
that motivation, that work ethic, their purpose to come from within.
Their internal drive.
That's right. Not me screaming at you, yelling at you to do something.
Right. But plus it was their first tournament. They were already overwhelmed because tournaments are stressful.
Long
We were struggling
all day. It was a long
all
tournament.
day. We were tired. They're 9, 10 years old. And so in my mind, it's like if I start doing my mom voice on these kids, I'm breaking them. I'm breaking them down. I'm turning this what could be a really great memory for them maybe into something that could potentially be traumatic.
Well, and I would also say,
And for what?
well,
Right?
yeah, like, are you saying that, "Hey, it's okay to scream or yell at my kids for you to get off your chest because you're feeling that way, because you're impatient, you're frustrated, you're upset?" Because a lot of the times when adults act like that, it's not because of their children. It's their lack of coping skills. It's their lack of self-regulation. And I'm guilty
Mhm.
of it too. I'm a work in progress, but
Same.
it's,
I mean, and there were moments where I was like, "Wanna," but then I, like, had self-control, and I'm like, "No, don't do it.
yeah, just breathe.
They don't need that right now." Like, we missed, like, 10 serves in a row, and it's like, "That's okay."
Well, and another, I would love to know this, especially with parents. You're asking me to do this, and I'll keep using the example screaming and yelling. Have you even asked the child what's going on in their mind? Like,
Mhm.
I know for me, I was so hard on myself. If and when anyone else like did that, acted that way, I shut down.
Mhm.
So for me, when a coach yelled or screamed at me, it did the complete opposite. It didn't help me. And it does. My connection with my coach, it was grew farther and farther apart. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel connected and it didn't make me play better.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why I think, coming back to this step 4, modeling how to lose, we need to be able to narrate that resilience in real time, right? Not just only the success of the wins, but like all the other ways that we were resilient and we like still showed up in the face of like defeat.
So let's say your team doesn't win next time and you're just like you almost had them. How would you change? What would your or the game huddle look like? If you're wanting to change and model the behavior, how would you act? What would you do differently?
Well, I don't know. I've been doing a lot of work, so I still always go back to We saw a lot of great things today. Like we need to continue to focus on what we're doing right. We learned a lot, obviously, and we've got more work to do basically. So we're going to come back into the gym next time and we're going to continue to put in that work.
I'll add to that. I remind them that I know it's easy and that all of you want to look at the outcome. And I'm asking you to trust me, trust the coaches, and to trust the process. I'll get you there. I'll get you. I believe in myself that much. And I trust myself that if you can trust this process that we're going through, I will get
Right.
you the outcome that we're looking for. And again, each team's different. One year, the outcome might not be we want a winning record. It could just be everyone shows up on time, everyone can play, we have no injuries. It could be something as simple as that.
Right.
I mean, take a look at our year at Capitol. That was probably a great goal. Like realistically, we knew if maybe even if we got one win, that would be considered success.
You mean at Hawking?
At Hawking, excuse me, I said Capitol Hawking. At Hawking.
No, it's true. And honestly, in those huddles, I always say I'm really proud of you guys. I'm so proud. And I try not to say too much. I do believe there's power in time and letting things really have time to process. So we have our practice on Sunday and I'm gonna come together and we'll sit down. I'm gonna just talk to them about your experience.
And that's really important too, because that brings up when I was living in Redondo Beach still, I was still in California, and I was with this specific volleyball club program. And the director at the time, she was one of the directors, she had come to the tournament. I was head coaching, leading this team. And after we were done with the tournament, we were really close to, I think, like going on to the finals. And after we were done in the huddle, I didn't say a lot. And parents have to understand this, and coaches and directors. A lot of the times, for me anyway, I'm kind of still like processing what happened. I'm coming down like my rush. I'm coming off of everything that I had been thinking of leading up to that point, the rotations. So it's also a lot of us regulating. And I'll never forget this because I didn't say a lot to the girls. I ended up not coaching that team because of a huddle, and
Like
I
the
can't
next
even make
game.
this up. It was, like, such a disappointing moment with that team that I was so disappointed in that person
Yeah.
and ultimately with that club program because it was so political.
So she removed you from the team entirely or just from that game?
Yes. It was
From the program entirely?
I they gave me a couple options.
It's like, thank you.
I know, to stay with that team, but someone was gonna take over,
Dang, that sounds like what happened to me.
to go to a different team, or to go to a different age group,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't even say it was my pride. I made the decision to leave the program entirely based off of principle and my
Mhm.
values.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, I was really disappointed. And she was
Yeah.
younger than me. She was very immature, um,
Mm,
and very ego driven.
yeah.
And when
That
you're
sounds
dealing with an ego-centered individual, you kind of are able just to remove yourself from that and see
yeah,
them for what they are. And so for me at the time, it was just better to walk away.
right.
And I don't
Dang.
regret that decision.
I wish I could have done that. I didn't because my daughter wasn't on the team, and I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't gonna be any negative repercussions for her.
So you stayed on a team that there was parent dialogue or coach dialogue? What happened?
It was just gosh, who even knows, but I there was basically parents, I think. Parents were complaining,
Imagine
one in particular because the the girl was her and River were subbing for each other. I don't even think this girl plays volleyball anymore, which is just kind of funny to me. I mean, River's not even playing because she's injured too. I wasn't falling in line with the way they wanted me to handle things, and only because it didn't align with my values and the way that I approach coaching. And so I was dealing with a very I agree, like, when you're ego driven like that, this person was younger than me, not much experience. There was no conversation either. It was just like, "This is what's gonna happen," and to me, that revealed you lack communication skills. And so, yeah, all these things, it was kind of a combination of things, but yeah, my assistant ended up taking over the team, and at this point, we had won 2 tournaments too, so I'm just like, we were really a successful team.
As far as the outcome based, you were
Yeah.
successful, yep.
Yes, but we were playing games. We
Mm.
were playing game-like drills in practice, they didn't like that, which I just find
Call
it's
up
just
John
funny.
Kessel and have him give him a taste of knowledge.
So anyway, it was actually really great that it happened because, and we talked about this episode 1 too, just that's really what inspired me to wanna start my own thing because I know that there I was now gonna be able to be in control to create a space for athletes and parents to feel the full experience. I want and I that leads me into, like, kind of the step 5 of the reframing, like, we need to be able to create spaces for people to feel the full experience.
Yeah. To feel seen, to feel heard, to maybe not agree on everything, but know that we're in this together. I
Yeah.
do believe there's a lot of value in the community of whatever you're doing. I don't think you can do it alone, is what I'm getting.
No.
And this is
I
more than sports.
It's more than sports. Yes, and I think not having to step in to fix it right away is important. Not minimizing, like, the big feelings that they're feeling in those moments.
Or
I
having
wish it
them not even I was telling you this was a well-known person throughout the world probably when Michael Phelps was going for the Olympics and, he's just one of the best athletes in the world. He was suffering from depression. And he even said, and I was listening to one of his interviews, he goes, this isn't verbatim, but the gist of it is we were not allowed to show a weakness. So athletes tend to equate to being strong. And he even goes on to say, like, the importance of self love as well.
Right.
And yes, we need to give kids the space to just be able to talk about what they're feeling. Equally important, sometimes just the ministry of presence, of just being there for somebody else, can be
And
very
just letting them exist.
healing and calming.
Right. So instead of like, "Oh, it's fine, you tried, don't be upset," it's just, like, acknowledging those feelings. That looked really hard.
I know mom used to tell me all the time, "It's fine. It's fine."
Yeah.
I'm like,
But we need to validate those feelings, like, "Why I can see why you might be frustrated," right?
mhm.
I'm here for you. I'm gonna be patient because we don't have to rush through this. We don't need to rush to get to, where other players might be right now.
The last time I was in the car with Taj, and again, so if whoever's watching and they don't know this, I'm a parent and I'm also the coach. He was frustrated about a couple of things, and what I said to him as a parent, I was like, "I know you're really frustrated right now, and I'm just going to give you the space and the time and just say whatever you wanna say.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong, and I'm just gonna be here next to you, and I'm gonna listen to whatever you wanna say."
Mhm.
And he did.
Yeah, because feelings, they don't go away when you ignore them. Okay, they go away when we feel that we are in a space to allow them to come through, no matter how positive or negative it might be, that safety that comes from that. I can still express my positive and negatives, and at the end of the day, I'm in a safe space to do so, and I'm not going to receive judgment from this. So that was a really good job.
Well, and then, also our thought, because like, some of the stuff he was saying, I'm like, "Okay, that wasn't true." Like, he was talking about the refs a lot, which every kid thinks that the refs are for the other team,
Right.
especially in basketball. Like, the the ref didn't call, fouls when they were fouling, but they just call it all on me. Whatever. A lot of times, our thoughts are not actually the reality. So I think that it's also important, and it could be a really great learning lesson for children to like, you can have these thoughts and you can express these thoughts. And then what's the reality of like what actually is happening?
Right. Okay, good. So let's go back. We'll start with one again.
So to wrap it up,
Interrupt
okay.
interrupt the comparison loop. Change what success means to you. That's 2. Stop only posting the wins. Show a full picture. Model how to lose. Create space for the full experience, all those feelings. And then this one I wanted to put in as well. 6 is unfollow what makes you doubt yourself.
Oof, good one.
Especially so if we get back into the social media realm, if you're following someone and every time you look at their page, they make you feel like crap, remove it. Just as simple as that. Out of self-respect for you, not out of bitterness, like, screw them,
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely.
because it's affecting your nervous system. So protect your nervous system.
Man, when
And
you listen, by the way, like when you start really listening to the way certain things or people make you feel, you just got the chills thinking about it. That really puts in perspective kind of like intuition a little bit, your gut.
yeah, and then finally, the last thing, curate what brings you joy and then remind yourself what is real. So grounding yourself in the truth, okay? No one is winning all the time. No kid is constantly thriving and no path is ever smooth.
That's right.
And so, I think the kind of overall thesis of this is no one's behind. Okay. We are all trying to become the best version of ourselves. And that is a process.
And it can change too.
Yep.
It is a process and it can change and you evolve. Hopefully,
And
not everyone, hopefully. Hopefully.
at the end of last season, I gave all my girls, I gave them flowers in the form of a bulb. And it was at our like little celebration banquet. And I said, growth happens over time, not overnight.
Oof, good one.
So really try to meditate on that, because it was the end of our season. We had some wins, we had some losses, more losses than wins. But at the end of the day, I saw so much growth in all of those girls over the course of those 6 months. And that's what I wanted them to focus on, that still was happening over our time together.
And maybe that's how our idea of social media can change too with conversations like you're having with your girls. Like you're redefining what success looks like, what winning looks like.
Right. And I see them struggling with it still. And I'm trying to help reshape that for them. But the illusion of winning, it only survives when we participate in it,
Right.
when we give it that energy. So I think it's really important to come back to that choosing presence over performance, like really being present in the moment. And that's when those ideas, we start to like see some cracks in that, the illusions of winning.
Right, because it's gotten so out of hand. It's like such a collective part of our society.
It is. Yeah. And so I think just, we got to value growth over trophies and just really, encourage kids that, feeling safe is key
That's a big one,
because
the trophies for the just right away. Not that it's nice to get one, sure, but, I typically do not take the medal. I give it to my assistant. It's like, this is cool,
right.
and this is not why I'm, like, happy or joyful right now. It's
Mhm.
not because of what you just handed me or what I could have it's because of, like, the all the work that I poured into this, all the work that the girls have done, from seeing them not being able to underhand serve the ball over to now they're overhand, overhead serving the ball. Those are wins for me.
Awesome. Yeah, because in that you're modeling that behavior and essentially cracking those illusions. Like it loses its power. You're not allowing that trophy to have that power.
Right, the material, I don't need that material. Again, it's great. Having the material, though, doesn't define me. Like, I could care less. And I say that now being almost 44. In my 20s, I wanted those. In my kid years, I wanted all the ribbons, I wanted all the trophies, and those things just don't matter to me anymore as far as wins or the outcome.
Yeah, same. I think just creating a space where my kids, my athletes can just feel safe to be human. And
Safety, yeah.
that's like and that's the full human experience, the highs, the lows, the positives, the negatives. Like that's the full picture. That's like
Here's a big
that
one, that
realness.
your kids wanna come back to you. Like, do you know how much joy I get where my athletes want, or they're not my athletes, the athletes wanna come back and be a part of another season? That is just
Yeah,
success, like, for me. I'm winning right there.
100%. And that's such a good point because that just kind of can reaffirm that safe space that you're creating.
Right.
And so, to kind of wrap up what we've been talking about today, we're creating this safe space for individuals to come into, but with Instagram versus reality, this illusion of winning, you have to be in control of creating that safe space for you, which is internal. Your
And it's
internal,
okay to put the phone down. It's okay to take time scrolling, set a limit.
right,
Make those changes for yourself, for your sanity, for your children's sanity, and for just the betterment of really all of us.
right, absolutely.
Connect outside of your phone.
Oof.
Ah.
All right. Thank you for listening. We're looking forward to our next big topic. With Between the Joneses.
Joneses, yeah, thanks. Oh, I wanted to say we are actually gonna start having guests, so if anyone does listen to this and there's somebody that you want on our podcast, we'd love to know who.
Oh,
In the meantime, though, we are starting to think about who our first guest will be, and we will bring that to light definitely before the new year.
yes. I love that. That's a realistic goal.
That is a realistic goal. We're gonna have our first guest before 2027.
Let's go.
All right,
All
Kate.
right.
I
All
love
right.
you.
Thank you, Jess. Love you too. All
See you later.
right. See you later. Bye.